For me, art and magic are the same thing. Magic uses symbolism, objects, tools, performativity, theatre to create situations that compel us and afford opportunities for change. In the past, my interest in ritual technologies, magic, philosophy, it informed aspects of my work, but it wasn't the same thing. In the last few years, all of those things have come together in a very embodied sense. So prior to the recent work, although magic was always an interest for me, it's been something that's been peripheral to my practice or has been inside it, but in a way that I didn't have the distance to recognize. South Korea is the stage on which this film essay unfolds as a reflective, embodied exploration of itself through the magical perspectives of South Korea's people and spiritual ecosystem. I was awarded a residency by BALTIC at Hongtae Art Center in Busan, which is the second largest city in South Korea. And the residency exists in a kind of industrial park, very close to the coast. And then you walk along the seafront for a while before getting a train that snakes into the center, which is this kind of bustling metropolis. The opportunity for me gave me the chance to have an embodied experience that was heavily to do with improvisation. So although I had interests in going that I stated in my proposal to look into Korean shamanism, ritual performativity, ritual technologies, ways to affect personal transformation as part of a culture, it wasn't illustrative in that I knew what I wanted to say before I went. So it was a generative experience where I had the opportunity to walk and film things and be in a very open, reflective space where I'd be constantly improvising and responding to moments. So the film essay focuses on Mudang, who are Korean shaman. Mudang tend to be matrilineal in that they're women and the tradition is passed down through generations from their mother or their grandmother. But some of them have this thing called a spirit sickness, which is where they become ill physically or emotionally, psychologically, and the illness seems to allude towards an unused capacity that they have. Mudang afford people opportunities through their performance and their ritual to affect change in their lives. So part of the shamanic practice involves dancing and singing and making offerings. The dancing and singing creates a kind of substantive environment that has a lot of momentum. And in this energized place, change can occur. And whether or not you think that ritual magic is just something that impresses a deeper part of us and then we affect change in our lives, or whether you think that it's a kind of subjective theatre that impresses forces that are possibly post-human or non-human, either way, these rituals create radical agency for the people who have sought the help of the Mudang. So great social, familial, and even political change can happen. Being in Korea was a fantastic opportunity to immerse myself in a culture that was very different to my own, but embodies principles to do with magic and transformation that I too live by. Much of the film is an attempt to map in a holistic sense this spiritual ecosystem to try to redress a conceptual balance, to look at, in this case, and look to other aspects of other cultures that have a more expanded relationship with the world and a way of being in the world, and to use that as an opportunity to reflect on the position in which we find ourselves today. So the films are shown on 4 screens and they're arranged in the cardinal directions. In a lot of magical systems, the directions are attributed certain agencies. So in the East, the symbol is the sword, and the agency there is choice or conception. It's the beginning of things. You have spring, you have dawn, and you have the element of air. In the South, you have the symbolic tool is the wand, and the agency there is getting things done, creativity. The element is fire. In the West, you have the symbolism of the cup, and the element is water, and the West is seen as an opportunity to reflect on things that are happening. It's also considered one of the more emotional placements. And then in the North, you have the pentacle or the shield, which is a symbol of earth, and the capacity of earth is to integrate and accept the process that the other symbols embody. So the quiet, unspoken hope of having the TVs in the different positions is that just by virtue of the direction that someone sits down, these elemental archetypes might be aiding a certain type of experience for the person. So as part of the show, I created a magical system. And for me, a magical system is just a map of change. And through mapping change, we're afforded an opportunity to connect with those momentums of change that exist in the natural world around us and in different ways of being, thinking, feeling. The mandala that exists in the space is an attempt to create a summation that's pragmatic, that reveals those things that would otherwise possibly be obscured to us to some degree through extensive religious narratives, for instance. The magical system that exists in the show is the outcome of me using ritual magic practices that involve creating symbols to impress your subconscious, to invite the world to become in line with your desires. For me, I've created a symbolic, ideogrammatic language that I've called Archon. And this language takes the English language, strips the Latin letters down to their simplest increments. So A that would have been like this becomes like this. So this ideogrammatic script is a way for me to sum up many of the different pieces of the system that is unfolding. And although it is esoteric in that it belongs to me and it's built out of my understanding, it actually affords me a momentum to be able to communicate in a broader sense something of the architecture of the experience of practicing magic. But this is a technology that absolutely anyone could use and will look different depending on whoever uses those things. But for me, it's been an opportunity to affect symbolic change from within my practice and then into my life in radically empowering ways. So there are 36 sculptures in the space which are collectively called alchemical ghost food. Before science and spirituality divorced themselves, pre the Enlightenment, alchemy was the practice of both of those things together. Alchemy was a very sophisticated thing because it understood that there was a relationship between material change and psychological or emotional change. Ghost food is a nod towards a cultured practice in South Korea and probably in many, many different situations across the world where people will give offerings to ghosts in the form of food. So there were many times in Korea where I'd round a corner and on the pavement a very beautifully laid out meal would be there, and on inquiring about that, people said that they were gifts of food to nourish lost ghosts. So the sculptures are made as offerings to dead artists in terms of them being ghost food. Each one of them, in my opinion, will appeal to a specific artist who has passed away. Some of them are pointed in the direction of artists that I have some understanding of, and many of them are offered openly. The 36 sculptures exist in a kind of prismatic arc, moving through different colours, a rainbow of different objects. My use of colour started when I was very young, and in a similar way to someone who might be interested in music, creates melodic compositions that please them. I've often used objects as a way to create visual melody. The interplay between similar but different colours, for me, affords a kind of a wholeness to those moments of difference. I became an active member of the Newcastle Theosophical Society a few years ago, and it was a wonderful place for me to be able to explore eclectically religion, philosophy and ideas of magic and transformation without having to be part of any one system. And so the society is a wonderful mix of academics and practitioners and people who have had a vast variety of experience in the world that has left them with extra questions and a want to explore possible answers to those questions. And so during that process I've collected many books that evidence and explore ideas from a variety of perspectives, and my hope was to bring them all together here to show something of the research that preceded the subjectivity that I'm standing up for in the space. I think for me personally this exhibition has been quite a surreal opportunity to build a temple to my interests and then wander around inside them with others. I think much of my work is deeply personal and subjective in that I'm navigating these things that are different through myself. But this has been an opportunity for me to take all of those expressions, put them out into the world in a way that they can exist beyond me emphatically believing in or talking about or practicing these things. So this exhibition has been an invaluable opportunity for me to externalize many personal things and to let them sit inside a larger architecture so that other people can explore those things with hopefully enough space that they can subjectively reflect on those things and have an experience that's deeply personal to them.